Welcome to the Dare to Be Authentic podcast. I'm your host, Maury Mitchell. I'm always so happy to be here with you. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Samantha Fast. She's a dynamic keynote speaker and founder of Savvy Speaks, driven by her passion to inspire individuals to embrace their authentic selves and pursue their dreams with confidence. Her diverse background as an internationally recognized DJ, music producer, real estate entrepreneur, and competitive dancer provides a unique perspective that she leverages in her engaging presentations. Welcome to the show, Samantha. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure. And boy, do you have a diverse DJ. I just so awesome. First of all, there's not that many women DJs, and also you do some very interesting type of music. So that just fascinates me.
Yeah, it's definitely not necessarily the path that I saw myself on when I was a little girl. But I am loving every second of it. I just really love the way that music speaks to me and speaks through me to others when I'm playing. And so it's one of the ways that I kind of use my energy to channel to inspire others. And that was one of the main drivers actually for the creation of Savvy Speaks as well. So it's very, very special to me.
Okay, well that we can segue right into what inspired you to do this, to do what you do currently doing.
Yeah, so I guess I had been dancing for quite some time as a competitive dancer and performer. And when COVID hit, all the competitions and performances obviously stopped. And so at that time, I kind of decided to switch gears from the genre of dance that I was doing, which was salsa bachata, so more on the Latin dance side. And I had been intrigued for many years already by this mysterious dance called kizomba, and it would pop up at festivals and events every once in a while. And so I had already been learning about this dance called kizomba and learning about the music. And because of my competition schedule, I just wasn't able to really devote time to learning the dance, but I was able to devote time to learning and understanding the music. So it was actually the music itself that drew me in the first place. And so I had kind of started curating a library for 5 or 6 years already by the time I started really focusing on kizomba. And as I was doing the training, and I recognized that we had a severe lack of DJs in the city that I was in. I was living in Calgary at the time. And so one of the things I kind of thought, because people had planted the seeds in my brain for this, and I was always sending them music and different songs that spoke to me. And I had a few friends come and tell me, like, have you ever considered being a DJ? Because you have really good music selection. So that kind of like planted the seed in my brain. And I would say, like, maybe about a year later was when I really started to take this seriously because as things started opening up and, everybody was craving social interaction and, I recognized that there was kind of a void in our community. We had no DJs. And so I kind of thought, well, maybe I should try, maybe this is something that I should try doing. And so I kind of asked around and I asked a few friends and just kind of for moral support. And I had a few friends be like, yeah, I think like, why not? And so I bought my first little baby controller, and one
Love
of the things about my story is that from the time I bought my controller to the time I probably actually started DJing was like maybe 6 months because I was so intimidated by it. And this is part of like what I'm working on with Savvy Speaks, right? Because one of my big things is like confidence to go after your goals and your dreams. And so, like, for me, it was like confidence to get up on stage when I was performing and competing, but now, like, turning this into the confidence to actually start DJing. And so the controller seemed really, really intimidating to me at the time. So it just kind of sat on my desk for like 6 months. And every once in a while, I would attempt to learn things about the controller and I would like learn things about the software and stuff like that. And slowly but surely, I started like learning and like trying different sets and like transitions and stuff. So first it started with just like one or two songs that I would try a transition, and then it would start with like maybe five songs that I would try to put together into a set, and then eventually I started doing like community performances at local dance events. And eventually, people started hearing that I was DJing because there's the community in Western Canada is quite small. Like the dance community in general is quite small. And so everybody knows everybody. And so then people started hearing, like, oh, I heard you started DJing. Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm just trying it out to see if it's something that I'm interested in. And, the controller that I bought was not so expensive. So if it wasn't something that I wanted to pursue, it's not like I had made a huge investment in it or something like that, right? And so then I started getting requests from people to be like, oh, well, we're having this event, like maybe you can come out and help us DJ, and like we're doing this here, we're doing that there. And so then I started getting bookings for DJing. And eventually I got up the courage, again, talking about courage, I got up the courage to start posting my stuff online because I was like, okay, like this is something that I have to do to put myself out there, like make it known that I'm doing this. And so I put my very first set out there, and then an organizer that I had met in Paris the previous year. We were friends on Facebook, and he reached out to me and he's like, I didn't know that you were DJing. And I was like, yeah, yeah, it's something that I'm trying. And so then he said to me, he's like, well, like I have this festival happening in the summer, and he's like, if you want to come and you can spin some sets. And so I was like, okay, like I'm not going to say no to that.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was kind of the start of my European exposure to DJing. And so then, for the past couple of years, I've been really focused on putting myself out there more, and I've been doing a lot of training with different DJs and artists that I look up to and really aspire to be where they are one day. And so I've done a lot of training as well. And then DJ mentor and friend of mine kind of said, like if you really want to make it in this world especially as a female DJ, because it's not easy for a woman in this industry. And he's like, you really have to start getting into music production, because it's when people hear your songs, in people's sets and they hear your name, like that's what's going to make you more known, right? If people keep hearing DJ Savvy, DJ Savvy, DJ Savvy, right? And so then that's kind of what got me into the process of music production. And so I would say I'm still very early on in my journey for music production, but I do have a few songs that I have out there right now, and I just released my second EP album at the beginning of April. So I have two EP albums out and then a few singles as well. And I'm continuing to work on that, and, like writing my own lyrics now as well. And I've sung at least one of my own songs. And so I'm kind of also, again, working up the courage to start getting more into doing my own vocals as well. Because singing is something I used to do way back in the day when I was younger. And so now I'm like, oh, like maybe that's something that I can bring into the music production side of things. But yeah, I guess the pathway from DJing to Savvy Speaks was really inherently all about like the courage and the growth that I experienced through my journey from dancing to professional dancer to now professional DJ and now music producer. And the feedback that I had continued to get from close friends and family members and people who had been watching my journey. And especially from women, I had been getting a lot of feedback from women in particular, people coming to me and just saying, I've been watching you on your journey, and it just is really inspiring to see you go for your dreams the way that you have been doing and seeing the success that's been coming from it. And that really just it really touched me in a way that I can't even describe, that I was able to have that kind of positive impact on people, and people coming to say to me, like, seeing you go for these things really inspires me to want to also pursue my goals and my dreams. And I have a number of women who are coming to me and saying, like, I've always thought of DJing, but I just never had the courage to start. Or I've always thought, I had a woman that I was speaking to the other day, and she's into photography, and it's like I always thought of photography and meeting some of the photographers that are going to these festivals, and like how cool would it be for me to be able to like get into photography in this way. And it's kind of like I want to give people the courage and the inspiration and the strength to pursue their passions in the way that I was able to. And it was quite a journey for me starting. For a number of reasons, but kind of like hitting rock bottom a number of times, and just having the courage and the strength to continue on and to pursue. And one of the big quotes that I'm seeing a lot everywhere lately. And I think, you see things for a reason, right? Like the universe sends you messages for a reason. And so for me, I think the message is like everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And that's really what I want to help people to discover about themselves is everything you want is on the other side of the fear that's holding you back. And so it's about kind of overcoming the fear that you feel inside, the fear of failure, or sometimes even the fear of success. Sometimes people are afraid of success and afraid of what happens if it goes well. And so that can be something that really paralyzes people. And then they don't necessarily make the choices that move them in the direction of the life that they want to live. And so my goal with Savvy Speaks is to really help to encourage and inspire and uplift others, to, do the internal work to overcome those fears, and then, hopefully live a life of passion and purpose and meaning.
It's fantastic. I love it. Well, well, you're very courageous because not only were you doing something that was scary, but you're doing it in a man's world, DJing, you know.
Yes, and that seems to be the history of my life actually is and because my background is in real estate, and so I have a career in real estate, but it's not like I don't sell houses. I work on the commercial side. So the residential side I think is a little bit more friendly towards women in the industry. And but the commercial side is very much dominated by like older men in the industry. And so I started in that industry from quite a young age. I think I started when I was about 19 or 20. I started like on the property management side of things, and then kind of went through all the various aspects of commercial real estate then and what you can do in that industry. And it's definitely dominated by men. And so I almost kind of think that the universe had this plan for me so that I could be used to working in a male-dominated environment and not necessarily intimidated when I got to this stage. And so it's really about showing up like a boss and like you belong there. And that's something that I still struggle with myself. I'm not gonna lie. Like sometimes you walk in there and when you're newer in the industry and you kind of like you have to reinforce it to yourself that like, yes, I'm a DJ, I belong here, you know? And so it's about like constant reinforcement of this. And it's like, yes, I know that I'm good. I know that I'm skilled, and like I know that I belong, I deserve to be here just as much as any of these guys, you know. And so it's about kind of reminding yourself and supporting yourself through that, because it can be quite an intimidating field to be in, for sure.
Yes, for sure. So let me ask you something. What's the main message you really want to bring to the public?
My main message is really I just want I want others to be able to live lives of purpose and passion and meaning and happiness. You know, my ultimate goal is for people to be happy and finding happiness through the things that bring them joy. Because my personal belief is that if we are all doing something that brings us joy and lights us up from within, I really believe that that joy spreads and that light shines and it continues to spread. And so it's almost like by me shining brighter and doing the things that give me joy, and I'm able to share my joy with you through that, it almost like acts as a way of giving permission for other people to do that as well. And I think, you know, in Western society in general, we've kind of been brainwashed to believe that the world has to be a certain way, or that, you know, life has to be a certain way. And there's just generally not a lot of joy necessarily in day-to-day living if you're looking at the news all the time, or if you're looking at like the constant fear mongering that happens in the world. And it's just kind of like, let's just take a step back from that and look at the bigger picture and like, what is life really about? Like, life is really about love and expansion. And so it's about doing the things that they're not necessarily easy, but doing the things that bring you joy and help to create expansion in the world and help others to also believe and see that this kind of living is possible,
Yes,
if that makes sense.
it makes total sense. And, we create our own happiness. Joy is, it took me a long time to find that joy that I was looking for was right inside of me. And so we can
Yes.
focus on the news and the fear mongering and everything that's going on, or we can focus on what we love that's going on in our own lives. And
Hmm.
there's a lot to love and a lot to give thanks for. And
Yes.
it all goes on right up here. And
And in here, you know, like it's within our own hearts. And that's something that I think when people are looking for external validation a lot of the time, or like, when I get this thing, I'll be happy. When I get that job, I'll be happy. When I, you know, uh, like meet this perfect partner or whatever, I'll be happy. And I kind of have started to recognize that like none of that is going to make you happy. Like happiness is a choice,
right,
and it's about like doing the things that inherently make you happy, right? Rather than looking for the things that will supposedly make you happy. And you know, they say things like, when you get a new car, for example, you'll be happy with the new car for maybe like a week or a month or something like that, but then it just becomes part of your day-to-day existence and it's no longer special, right? And so it's, you can't rely on those things because you're just going to be continuing to look for the next hit of dopamine. So it's just like looking for the things that inherently make you happy. So for me, it's like music inherently makes me happy. I absolutely love spinning music, and I absolutely love spinning music for other people and making them happy. And so that's something that I can do within me, right? And something that has a positive impact on other people. And I think, you know, again, especially in Western societies, maybe there's a very large focus on individualism and the self. And so it's kind of like maybe figuring out a way to use your gifts to serve others. And then in that way, you know, you can you can help others while also helping yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And as you were talking, I was thinking when you're talking about, I'll be happy when this happens in your field. To me, it's so prevalent to say, I'll be happy when everybody loves what I do and everybody loves my music.
Well, and that's really a futile, that's like there's no point waiting for that time because you know what? No one like you're never gonna please everyone. And that's the thing is that like everyone's always gonna have something to say, everyone's always gonna have an opinion. And if you base your happiness on other people's opinions, you're never gonna be happy. And so that's really when it becomes about like do I make myself happy? Am I happy with who I am internally? Am I happy am I happy with who I am authentically, right? Like we're here to talk about authenticity. And it's like if you're spending your life trying to make other people happy and you're not actually doing the things that make yourself happy, like are you being authentic and true to yourself? And it's like the answer is no. And so really it's like other people's opinions are just opinions, and it's like the only persons whose opinion really matters is your own. Are you happy with yourself? Do you feel aligned within yourself? Are you living with integrity within yourself, you know? And it doesn't really matter what other people say because you know it within you.
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter what other people say.
Yeah.
So,
That's a journey that I had to take. There was a time in my life where I did what everybody else wanted, especially when it came to men, so that
mhm.
they would love me, want to be with me, care about me. But I was unhappy.
Mhm.
Maybe they were happy, but I wasn't. And it took me a long time to build myself up to the point where I felt, uh, and I don't care what people say. I don't care what they think. They can have their opinion.
Mhm.
It's not going to affect how I feel about me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard this quote somewhere, and I don't know if it's true that Sean Connery actually said it, but the meme was with his face on it.
Yeah. Right.
But it was basically something along the lines of like other people's opinions of me are not my business, or like what other people are saying about me is not my business. And I kind of live by that philosophy. It's just like I don't really want to or need to partake in the gossip that's going around about me because like 9 times out of 10, it's not true. And you're just like, wow, like that's really interesting. What did I do next? You know, like tell me, please.
And I love when you say it's not about me because ultimately it's about them.
It really is, honestly. And when you hear or like when other people are talking about you or like having opinions about you, their opinions are always about them and the projections that they're putting of themselves onto you. So most of the time, like sometimes you have those people who can call you on your stuff, you know, like I have a very good friend of mine and you know sometimes we have very in-depth conversations and sometimes he calls me on my shit and I'm like okay, like I see your point there. And so it's good to have those friends who can act as like a reality check sometimes for you, because obviously like none of us are infallible and none of us are perfect, right? And so getting that outside perspective from people that you know and love and who you know love you as well and want the best for you. So I appreciate having those people in my life, but when you hear like the average person and they have some sort of opinion of you, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a projection of whatever they're going through internally, and they're just projecting their own insecurities onto you.
Very good.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about what authenticity means to you.
Authenticity means to me, I think, aligning yourself and living in alignment with like your true authentic self, your the highest and best version of yourself, you know? Like so it's kind of when I think of being authentic, I kind of look at myself from like a third party view, and it's like I'm looking down on myself and I'm kind of like, okay, are you being the best version of yourself that you possibly can be? And it's like having a vision of yourself, the best version of yourself, and constantly like striving toward being that version of yourself. Because a lot of the time, I think when people want to live a certain life, they're not necessarily willing to make the sacrifices that are required in order to get that life. So it's like, okay, if I want to like own a business making 6 or 7 figures a year, am I doing all the things that are required of a business owner to be like running a business making 6 or 7 figures a year? And like, okay, that means, what does that mean? That means probably getting up at 5 a.m. That means probably putting in like 18-hour days. That means like, hustling sometimes. And, that means like constantly putting in the effort and the work. And it's like, if you're not willing to do that, then that's fine. But then you can't necessarily be surprised when that doesn't manifest in your life, right? And so authenticity also means to me, um, living with integrity. Um, and just like doing the things you say you're going to do, very basic things sometimes like not lying, not cheating people, things like that. But also vulnerability, and I think vulnerability is actually I think a lot of people think of vulnerability as a weakness, but to me, I see vulnerability almost as the ultimate strength because it means you have nothing to hide, you
Right.
know? And I think um, in a world where, everything on social media is fake and curated, it's very hard. I mean, I think it differentiates you to be authentic and vulnerable in the social media space, but it's also very easy to get swept up in the fakeness of it all. And especially when things are celebrated that I wouldn't necessarily consider to be authentic.
Mhm.
And authenticity is not always rewarded in a social media standpoint, which is such a huge way that people spread messages these days is through social media. And a lot of the time it's the authenticity and the authentic people who don't necessarily have their voices heard because that's not what sells all the time, which is unfortunate, but
What's popular. I love what you said,
hmm
vulnerability, because when we're vulnerable, we have not only we have nothing to hide, but we have nothing to fear. For even
hmm
our own heart, we have nothing to fear because
yeah,
vulnerable can be very scary. And
it can be.
when you're working with other people, for myself, since I'm a coach, being vulnerable is important because they can see who I really am, what I've gone through, and that I can relate to them. So
hmm
that's,
hmm
yeah, that's key.
Yeah, and like I think as coaches, a lot of the time people think that we have like these perfect lives or whatever, and it's like I'm gonna coach you because I know better. And it's like, well, no, that's not what it is at all, like it's just like maybe I've gone through this experience and I can help you, or maybe I have a different insight that you've never experienced before. Maybe I can be the support system that you need to get through this time in your life, or I can be the encouragement or your cheerleader, right? And so coaching is not necessarily because like I have like I'm the best and I'm better than you, right? It's definitely not that way. It's about a support system.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
And I love that you are coaching, which is how it usually is, out of what you've learned in your life and out of what you've experienced. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, and that's like one of my main goals. So when I first like had this brainchild for Savvy Speaks, it was purely going to be focused on like speaking. And it was like, okay, I'm going to be a speaker, I'm going to be a motivational speaker, and I'm going to build this speaking business and blah blah blah. And then like as Savvy Speaks has kind of grown and evolved, my vision for the the company itself has morphed into something much bigger. And so like I'm kind of like cultivating and growing this, I call it my savvy universe, right? And so yeah. So it's like I want to have the public speaking as one arm of it so that I can go out there and, motivate people through the speaking and through my experiences. And then I'm also going to be starting a podcast actually, and just it'll be like a thought leadership podcast in general, because one of the things that I really truly love doing is just like speaking with interesting people and discussing interesting topics. And like it could be like health, it could be relationships, it could be science, it can be like whatever it is, right? But that's one of the things that I really love, is just like having interesting conversations with interesting people. So I'm really excited about the podcast aspect of it actually. And then I'm gonna have like some group coaching as well. And so I have the savvy solution to success, or some like whatever we ended up calling it. But it's going to be like a course that people can come with a community aspect, right? For people to come and be part of this community and going through this program together. And then one-on-one coaching as well for people who want to work more closely with me. And then the savvy music. So that will be like all the DJing and the music production side of things, because for me, stepping into and embodying DJ Savvy herself was such a huge step in terms of like stepping into my confidence, that like, and that's why I'm calling everything Savvy Speaks, because it's about me really truly embodying what it means to be DJ Savvy and embracing all parts of me through this business entity.
Fantastic. I love all of it. I'm so excited. I can't
Yeah, me too, honestly.
wait out of time, but is there one last thing you'd like to say to a listener, something that's deeply on your heart today?
I would say, learning to listen to your inner guidance and following that intuition, because, I would say, the trueness and the authenticity within you is not going to be a screaming voice. It's going to be more of a whisper. And so just learning to quiet your mind and calm your mind and listening to that whisper, because ultimately your higher self will tell you what your true desires are and your passion and purpose are. And when we kind of get out of the busyness of the world and come back within ourselves, they will tell you what that is. And so it's about listening to yourself and stop people pleasing. Yeah.
Both of them. Well, it's been wonderful having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for listening in to Dare to Be Authentic podcast. And make sure you catch us next time. Bye for now.
Bye.